Happy Friday, Madridistas. That music is hitting so hard today because we have official signing news and all sorts of good things to discuss. I am your host, Jarod Hector, joined for the first time doing it together. My man, Loconte, what's up?
Yo, what's going on to you first, bro, and to everybody else? So, yeah, this is the first time together, actually.
This is the first time together, and I'm excited because I always learn so much from Loconte when he's doing solos or even when he's with somebody else. So I'm happy that I get to be the one asking him questions today and driving the conversation so we can really dig into some stuff. For those of you new to the channel, please, of course, like this video, subscribe, share, tell your friends all about it. We also have the audio versions on Spotify and Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. So please make sure you are supporting The Real Deal, a Real Madrid podcast. All right, Loconte.
Free, by the way.
That's the best part. It's free. It costs you $0. What in this world today costs you $0 that you actually enjoy? Not a whole lot. So I was excited today, right? Obviously, because the news came down that the Franco Mastantuono signing is official from River Plate. Now, he will not be playing for us for the Club World Cup, which is understandable. He's going to be with River Plate for as long as they're in the competition. And then as soon as they're done, he'll effectively be with us, but the official date will be August 14th. So he'll be here for the start of next season. And I'm excited. 17-year-old kid, Loconte, who has a lot of upside. I always want to caution fans when they get excited about young kids, because the natural thing now to do is be like, okay, he is our Lamine Yamal. Slow down. He is 17 years old. Like, I have no idea what he's going to look like next year, let alone 2 years from now, 3, 4, 5. Let's just patience, comma.
Development, right? It's not very linear, you know? He can be like this, or maybe there is like this, you know? But yeah.
So that's the big thing. He gives us something that we haven't had profile-wise in a while, which is a right winger with a left foot.
Oh, it's been a while since we have had a left footer that technically really resembles a right winger.
So, correct. Yeah, and he's not really right. He's more like an attacking mid slash, but you can, you can kind of move him around there. So anyway, Xavi really has his hands full in the sense that he has lots of options. And I think, Loconte, the biggest thing here is that versatility and pragmatism are going to be Xavi's friends. And I think it's important for Real Madrid fans, again, caution themselves. Don't get hung up in, are we playing 3-5-3-2? Yeah. Are we like, forget about all that stuff, okay? Just worry about who is on the pitch and what is the ideas that Xavi has in place, and are they executing? Yes or no? That is the concern you should have.
That's exactly it. Like, what role are they assigned, and are they delivering on the role? Nothing else really matters.
Correct. All right. We also have news yesterday. We had Trent's presser, and guys, Trent spoke Spanish in his welcome speech. Literally gave his entire welcome speech to Madrid in Spanish. And look, that serves two purposes. One, he, of course, endears himself to the Spanish press and the board and everybody, right? And it shows that he made a concerted effort to learn. As anyone who's ever learned another language, like, that wasn't easy to learn that and be able to give that out. So Trent is obviously committed to being here. He's committed to putting his best foot forward, and I think that's a welcome sight. What were your thoughts when you saw him speaking Spanish in his conference?
I was really shocked. I'm gonna be honest, because even when Jude joined, right, it took him a little bit to start speaking in Spanish. Trent came there, held the conference in Spanish, and I'm like, oh wow, how long have you been learning it? So it kind of gave away that he's been thinking about this move for a while. You know, he's done the homework. He knows where he is.
Exactly,
and that's exciting part of it.
It also shows that Trent is, and this is not a bad word, but I want you to understand what I mean. He's calculated, right? Like, that is a calculated move. And guys, calculated doesn't have to mean bad. Like, anytime you're moving into a new position or situation, you should calculate what is expected of me and what will be good for me to do on day one to make a good impression. And that's what Trent did.
Yes, exactly.
The other thing, and this is, so we started out with two awesome pieces of news. It looks like the Alvaro Carrera's potential signing is going to be much later than we thought. He will not be with the club for World Cup. He's going to be with Benfica for the Club World Cup. And it may also mean, Loconte, that the signing might not happen, because I know that Real Madrid is concerned about the dollar amount, and they're hoping that Benfica would lower it. They may not. So this may cause one of two things. If academy products in that spot perform well during the Club World Cup, Madrid may be like, look, man, we don't need to make this signing right now. What do you think about
Exactly. That's what I kind of touched on the last show too. I thought that Alonso wants to give Aguado that proper chance, especially him being left back / center back. I thought that they want to give it a run with that first before they decide to splash all that money on a left back. So I think that it's a good idea in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I think it's smart. And if Benfica really wants to move him, right, then they'll say, okay, well, they'll come down and meet Real Madrid where they're at. Because I think his transfer fee was 45 million, and Madrid doesn't want to pay that. They probably want to pay something closer to 35, maybe.
It was something like that. It's a little bit confusing, right? It's between 40 to 50 mil. Right. That's the range, right? 50 mil is the release clause. I'm assuming that Benfica is not going to budge, knowing their transfer history and how much they upsell the players. So yeah, I'm not really sure that. I think that's why Madrid just went like, okay, we're gonna wait.
Yeah,
like he has a release clause there. He wants to come back.
Right.
We're gonna wait a little bit.
Exactly.
Let's see what comes out of this crop for the moment.
Yep. And I think it's also fair to say that Benfica is also looking at it financially, right? Because Man U gets a portion of that money. So the less money they take, that means less money they get, right? So they're really holding out for the most they can possibly get, which from just a pure business standpoint makes total sense. So I get it.
Yes. It's how they operate.
Yeah, for sure. And we signed the Ajax teenager, Abdel Hussein. He's going to go straight to Castilla, I believe. Another 16, 17-year-old who has a lot of upside. He won the African Nations 17 and under, best player of the tournament for AFCON. So he is someone who plays for the Moroccan national team, obviously. U17s, someone the club is excited about. And it looks like, Loconte, the club has made a very clear and conscious move with not only signing Xabi Alonso as the coach, but with these young kids signings and the constant talk in the media about we're going to prioritize Castilla as something very different than we've seen the last 3 years with Carlo Ancelotti.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of to be expected from the club to start moving into again with acquiring young players, right? As they're shifting the gears now, because post Ancelotti era also had Raul leave, and he was replaced by Arbeloa, right? So there are a lot of things that are changing in the system. On the inside, that's why you're seeing a lot of signings. That's why you're seeing, again, a lot of transfer talk, which I'm going to be honest, it's not very common for us on the last few years. We usually do the business early and we call it a day. But this time around, it's very uncertain. It's very unpredictable on how they're actually going to be moving. That signing just came out of nowhere, right? And he's immediately with the Castilla. Okay, he might get even first team minutes, depending on the quality.
And I think the biggest thing there is that, as we all know, Arbeloa and Xabi are friends, right? Very close friends. So they're going to be in constant communication. So Arbeloa will say to him, hey, man, player X has been doing really well in our last 2 matches. I think you should give him a look up top. Say, oh, great. We have a lower level team this week to play. I'll bring him up and let's see what he looks like. And so it'll be 2 purposes. The Castilla has always kind of been used as like a talent gets really good, but it's so hard to break into Madrid's first team. But we sell that talent and make a lot of profit. I think we'll still
that's how it's mainly been used.
I think we'll still keep doing that, but we're also going to add this other piece that if they play on the first team and get minutes and look good, well, I think we're going to keep this guy and work him into our rotation. So now we're going to do both sides, and we used to only do one. So that's
can you give us some solid minutes across the season?
Yes. Because the biggest thing is, and as fans of this podcast know, I cover the NBA. That's where my media and journalism credentials come from. If you're watching these NBA finals, you are witnessing what I believe is not just the future of the NBA, but the future of pro sports. Teams that are going to win at the highest level, deliver their best players to the most crucial moments of the season at their healthiest possible place they can be and at their freshest. You cannot do that if you don't have depth and rotation. It's impossible. You have what we had this year, which is Fede Valverde playing almost 5,000 combined minutes, that's not a recipe for success. So I think you're starting to see this is what the team's doing.
You tear the team apart, right? And Alonso is, to be honest, notoriously known for being a rotational coach. So you want the squad to be as deep as possible. As you said, even the NBA Finals was pretty good example, right? Both teams playing there are very deep, right? Like both have a lot of players in rotation, very unusual actually, but a lot of players that are contributing. And that's exactly how I think it's going to play out even in football with Madrid, right? Yes. Alonso is very rotational coach. Every single outfield player but one had actually scored last season for Leverkusen, which is an impressive feat on its own, right?
That's
but
awesome.
one player.
Yeah, no, it's very obvious, right? We see it playing out in front of us, and this again, guys, this is the future of sport. Because newsflash, as much as we as fans know it's better to make the fixture calendar less, they're not going to do that because there's
Yeah,
too
they're
much
not
money
gonna do
involved.
that.
They're going
They're
to
too
keep
money
adding
hungry.
more. So if that's the reality, then you have to have yourself prepped as a club to say, okay, we go 2-3 deep at every position, so we will rotate as necessary. So when time comes for the biggest matches, we're able. By the way, and Sid talked about this, but it's worth mentioning again. One of the biggest reasons, besides being very good, PSG dominated Inter in the Champions League final was if you look at the total minutes of PSG's players. I mean, Dembele and all those star guys were under 3,000 minutes. That
Yeah,
was
that's
huge
why they
in
have so much
comparison
energy.
to Inter. They had so much energy to run around. And that's
Yeah.
what we need if we're going to keep playing these kinds of schedules.
Yeah,
Which again,
you just can't keep running players to the ground and expecting to get results. It's just not gonna happen anymore. It's just not.
exactly.
That's
That's
the
just the
reality.
reality of it. Yeah. So we're moving forward with that. Thank you guys, by the way, for chiming in on the chat. Random guy 101 says, but Carlo is mostly against giving chances to academy players, and a result of that, Madrid struggled last season. Look, that is partly true about Carlo, right? He has
Yes.
his defined people that he relies on, and he will rely on them to a fault sometimes where he plays them too much. I mean, we always talked about what happened last year, right? He was forced to play Asensio, and look what he discovered by happenstance. If he wasn't forced to, we would have never known if Asensio could play at the first team level.
Exactly.
Now we
right?
know.
He had the chance though to do more on
Mhm.
that October run, but he just didn't.
Yeah.
That's the issue that we ran into last season.
And I think Javi, as we said, will for sure do a much better
Javi
job
is
of that.
completely different. You
Yeah.
can tell he's more detailed already. Like things are there, patterns are there, film is there with his Leverkusen. You have a lot more to work with here.
Speaking of patterns and details, Loconte, have you been seeing and I know, look, folks, anytime Real Madrid TV or any of these other Real Madrid accounts put out videos of trading, you know it's propaganda, okay? And it's fine because we're Madridistas, so we'll accept it. But have you been noticing how just engaged Javi is in practice?
So animated. He's
so
like, and we're used to just seeing Carlo sitting under the sun with his cap and just going like, come on, go.
It's such
and
a
now
difference.
we have a coach who's there like engaged. This is this. And it's like, wow. I'm like, okay, this is fresh. You know?
So there's gonna be
really
there's going to be a learning curve, right? Because you've gone from a man who is very kind of stoic and not so energetic. And look, to be fair, Carlos also 60, whatever. He's an old man, right? Yeah. So he doesn't have the energy like
he's
that.
He's never really been that.
Correct.
You know?
But now you have a guy who's in his early 40s who's like running up and down with you. Like, that's going to throw you off for a minute. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. What's happening?
I mean, he can literally still play with them on the training.
He does.
He can literally go like, okay, I can match you. Let's go.
I love it. Another video surfaced this morning of him chatting closely with Tchouaméni, and he's one of the players I know you think that Javi will do wonders with just making a better player, and I'm excited about that piece.
Yeah, Tchouaméni is the guy that I'm looking probably most forward to. Second to Vini, to be honest, because I genuinely want to see what he's going to do with Vini. Vini is that X factor for me. Who I think is like an unsolved puzzle in my head right now with Alonso. How he's going to use it.
I look, in the past, we know what we've done, right? It's spam Vinny on the left, spam Vinny on the left, let him take on 4 dudes. Sometimes he can't. What I love is with our ball progressors that we have now in our new signings and with Javi's system, I think we're going to get a lot of get the ball out to Vinny, and it's going to be one touch, and he's either going to be one on one or one on the goalie. And
that's what I'm praying, right?
That's the best scenario.
I'm just praying that he doesn't have to cover 3 times more distance with the ball than the next winger in the world. You know, like I want him to be near that level. He can carry it a bit longer, but not 3 times more, according to the data over the past 3 seasons. That's just too much.
Yeah. No, I think that's the direction that we're going to be heading in. I mentioned the Mastantuono signing. Obviously, we have Jude Bellingham, we have Brahim. You're sort of like front attacking, and there's talk about Nico Paz possibly being brought back with the buyback clause. And I know fans are worrying, oh my God, too many players. That's a good problem to have, guys, right? I would rather have too many than have too little, right? Which is what we had in the past.
Exactly.
And let's keep in mind, Jude is going to miss at a minimum 3 months. So best case scenario, he's going to be back sometime in October, which means that is one spot for sure, 90 minutes at that position that has to get filled by somebody or somebodies multiple people. And I think that's a great opportunity for multiple people, Loconte, to show what they can do.
Exactly. He's going to give that opening, even though Nico Paz, if they genuinely wanted to use him, they would have probably gotten him by this point, to be honest, for Club World Cup. I think that is going to be, unfortunately, pure business. They're going to pull back on that 8 million and then probably sell him to Leverkusen for 30.
Makes more sense.
That's what's going to happen. Unfortunate.
That's just math, right? That's just better math. That's just better math, right? $30 million versus, I mean.
Yeah, of course, right? Like business-wise, as we spoke, it's all about the business side of things. And of course, they're going to try to maximize it. But I was kind of hoping that he was going to be with the squad, because I think he has the quality. But yeah, Nico, we'll have to see, though. We don't know for certain. I think that the Club World Cup is where the test is really happening for all of these players, where Alonso can go like, you good, you good, you good, you good, you good. I need this, because you saw this hole. Even if they end up winning the whole thing, there are still going to be holes that I think that Alonso is going to go like, okay, look, I'm missing this, and I want to work with this. So, yeah, there might be ways around where Nico Paz ends up saying, as we spoke about Franco, he's also a player that's going to come in. Right. So, yeah, the squad is being filled.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, it's looking really good.
And you hit the nail on the head, Loconte. It's about the process, too, right? I want fans to understand that, listen, we all are high on Xabi and think he's going to do wonders. But he's not Jesus. He's not a miracle worker, okay? It's not going to be day one. All of a sudden, we're the best team in the world. It's going to be some growing pains. We're going to see people reverting back to their old habits, particularly when the game is in super stressful crisis moments. Because as human beings, when we get stressed out, we revert back to what is natural and normal and comfortable. And this club has been playing a certain kind of way for a long time. So in those moments, they're going to run back to their chaos, and you'll see it at times. You're like, what the hell are you guys doing? Yeah. Because they're nervous, and they have to go back to what makes them comfortable. They're not quite comfortable with this new stuff yet. So it's going to take time.
It's all about, can Alonso find that middle ground of, okay, these players are comfortable doing this, but they need to do some certain things that add value that's required really on this team. And the players have made it clear that they want to play a little bit more rigidly, like a little bit more, we kind of want to know what's happening, right? There were this stat that came out that we're the second team in last season that had scored the most goals of high turnovers. But when you look at our pressing, you're like, yeah, because we have like 8 players up, so it kind of makes sense, but we're conceding a shitload of goals back there,
we're
and it's
so
like,
much on the other end.
We're defenders, bro.
And
it's like, oh yeah, sure, we have won the ball high up because we have players to win the ball high up, but what did we do to these defenders and to that goalkeeper? And that's a massacre that we pulled last season.
Poor Thibaut and Asensio and Rodrigo let them out on an island by themselves all year last year.
I don't think I've ever seen a team have their defenders have to defend 1v1 as much as we had last season. Literally every game. It didn't matter if you're playing Getafe. It didn't matter if you're playing Man City. You just had to pull it 1v1. And it's like, do you know how much mental stress that is to begin with? Let alone the physical strain, just mentally knowing that you're going to be 1v1 at all times. Or the midfielder just doesn't have that luxury of mistiming even once. He doesn't have that luxury because he makes that mistake, goal conceded. Right? Because, I'm giving up so much space. So that's something that Alonso needs to fix, but still try to keep that identity where the players are comfortable with what they're doing, they know what they're doing, and you're kind of maximizing the level. It's not an easy task, right? No. Like, it's not first game, we're going to see all of this reshuffling where, oh my God, this is Pep Guardiola level of tactical ingredients that we're seeing there. I'm not expecting that, but I'm expecting a team that's more structured, knows a little bit what to do, what not to do. Alonso has said all the right things, to be honest, to his credit. All the right things.
Yeah, he certainly has. And that's what I see too. I see it being a progressive thing. It will get better over time. Like, to your point, linear years in development, so will this team's development be. It'll be a lot of roller coasters this season as they get their footing and get sure of what they want to do. But to your point, I love it because what we're going to do with this system, hopefully, too, is protect the playing durability of players like Valverde and Bellingham, who basically have to cover for everybody because there's chaos everywhere, right? So those guys running less means they're much more maximized to do what they do best, right? So again, time will tell and all that working out. Again, Jude will be getting surgery whenever we're done with the Club World Cup, so he's going to be out for a minimum of 3 months.
Poor guy.
So, yeah, he needs to get it done. And honestly, in a way, it's forced rest, right? Because he's going to literally have 3 months where he's not playing any high level football, which he needs. And I'll expect him, once he gets ramped back up, to have a nice bounce back second half of the season and really be super fresh and be a decisive player in the biggest moments at the end of the season.
And I really hope that I believe also that they're going to bring him back slowly. I don't see a rush there.
No.
Like he needs to. I think the decision between why he didn't do the surgery now and rather he's missing the start of the season is so, okay, now I get Alonso's ideas. I know what to expect. I can stay in touch with them at all times, knowing that this is waiting for me once I go back there. But I need to also feel it. So he's playing the Club World Cup. He feels that change a little bit. And then from that change, he goes, does the surgery, hopefully comes back pain-free and all ready, so we can see like the highest level that we have seen of Jude. To be honest, like that's kind of what I want to see. But for that to happen, it needs to be slow integration, taking care of him and all of that.
Exactly. And just for you guys listening out there, we will be doing Club World Cup episodes once the tournament begins. Loconte, Sid, and I will be on the post game for the first match, and we'll be, breaking on the little trio, breaking down what we see in the Xabi Alonso era. Again, calma, everybody. It'll be okay. Like, don't expect miracles on day one, but I think you're gonna see signs, and Loconte will really break down. I'm excited to hear you talk about what you already see when they play. This is already what we're doing different, and here's why it's gonna make us so much better.
Like you can kind of match the film of his Leverkusen, what he's trying to do with Madrid, because the execution is probably not gonna be there.
Correct.
But the idea is gonna. Right? The idea remains that even with Ancelotti, when he first came, you could see the difference between what he's trying to do versus Zidane, right? But execution took a lot of time. And we'll see how long the execution takes with Alonso, depends. But we just want to we're just hoping for the ideas, right? Okay, so what's the idea behind the team? Because right now we're completely in the dark. We don't really know what the idea behind.
Correct.
Who's playing, who's not playing, what roles are being given to what players. That will be made clear. And then we can start to draw some parallels between, okay, so if this is the way, then this player can take this role, right? Like that's the reality.
Yeah,
and
we'll for sure see it.
Yeah.
And I think that another player who I think will be interesting to see this go around with Xabi is going to be Rodrigo, because he's still very interesting to me. Because guys, the transfer window will reopen again sometime next week, and then it'll close in early September. And I know you are on board as saying you don't see Rodrigo fitting within this system. I agree with you, particularly if he wants to be a starter and a main protagonist, if you will, especially on the left side. I'm like, that's just not happening. So I don't.
Left side is taken already.
Right. So I don't. Unless you want to stay on the right where you've been and not complain about it, I don't see that changing. Right.
Yeah, but then your right side is Trent and Rodrigo. So this is where I'm kind of like drawing the parallels of how do you fit him? Like how? Where are you going to fit him? Right. Like this is my whole issue right now. Again, right now, no Madrid film.
Right.
Don't shoot me. I don't see Rodrigo staying. That's the reality. I don't see a place on him on this squad. And that's the reality. That's how I see it. Maybe things change. I watch the game on Wednesday and I go like, oh, damn. This is whole different.
This is how you're going to use Rodrigo. Okay.
With Bayer Leverkusen, well, Rodrigo doesn't have a place at all on this squad. Even if we want to go back to Ancelotti's last season.
And I think, the importance of that, Loconte, is that because again, we talk about Madrid's about business. What they may do is feature Rodrigo in certain areas to bring his value back up so that everybody on the roll is like, this guy's really good. So that the eventual sale at the dollar amount the club wants happens, right? I know there was a talk 2 years ago about $100 million, right? Now I don't think you'll get $100 million, but maybe.
I do think they get that. I do think because of the inflation of Premier League clubs. But the reality is that, yes, as you said, they might inflate that price even higher. Because let's say that they jump in and they win the first game 5-0. Let's just say that, right? Vini is coming off international break. Mbappé is coming off international break. You just go like, okay, I beat the second best team of the group. So from here on, I'm probably going to rest these guys. And Rodrigo goes to the left, right?
He scores a hat trick or something.
Get the best version of him. And teams go like, oh, this is the guy. You know, and that price is just inflating, going higher. And it's like, okay, now we're doing some business. They sold Ozil.
Yeah, they sure did.
Very late on transfer window. They sold Ozil because they had already brought in Isco, for example, and they were bringing in Bale. Therefore, they didn't see a place for Ozil on the team. So they just went like, okay, bro, look, you have been a great servant. We have enjoyed your production, but it's time to go. And 45 million, I believe, was his price tag back then, which was a lot, right? For that, back then. And they just went like, we don't need you anymore. And lo and behold, they were proven right. And I think it's kind of the case here too. They wanted Rodrigo in top tier shape. They wanted him to be the best possible version. But I think ultimately boils down to the business side of things rather than they want to keep him. Look, as a footballer, I don't dispute his qualities. I just struggle to see his fit. People seem to misunderstand me when it comes to that. When I suggest X and Y player, I just think that some other players would fit better, and business-wise, it makes more sense for Madrid to do that. Lesser wages, lesser transfer fee, this, that, and probably even lesser pressure on the coach because there is one less superstar, if you want to put, that's going to put like media pressure and PR on the manager to play him. So it's just, for me, it just made sense to go to a point where, okay, we kind of need to clean up a little bit on some of the things here to kind of have a fresher start. So
and I think that's the biggest thing for fans to understand, Loconte, is that there are business reasons and there are sporting reasons. Sometimes they're in line, sometimes they're not. And
I think they're in line here, though. Both.
Yes. And so with this Rodrigo situation, is we see random guy one-on-one here say, Rodrigo got a 3-year contract left. Can we see 1 year with Xavi first and then make a decision? That may be the case, random guy. That might be what they're doing. All we're saying is this other possibility also exists, that if Rodrigo shines during the Club World Cup and some Premier League team comes knocking down our door saying, we'll give you 100 more, guess what? We're going to sell him. Okay? Like, it's going to happen. That's just the reality of business.
If they get that offer, they're going to sell him. Literally. They're just going to sell him because best way to describe him on this team is luxury, right? It's not a must. He's not Mbappé to give you 50 goals. He's not a Vini to be able to dribble past and change those games like that. He's not a Jude. He's not a Valverde. He doesn't have that kind of role that people seem to think that he does. No, even Ancelotti dropped him. And he was always the droppable player whenever we were thinking about switching formations, this and that. Who's the guy that you always kept out, right?
Rodrigo,
He was always the sacrificial piece. And I don't think he wants to be that anymore anyways.
Correct.
So, because he's coming at an age where he has to be like Ballon d'Or level of player, right? But he's coming now at the point where, okay, I've been here long enough. I might probably want to explore different avenues here because, well, those guys are treated better. Those guys are seen better. Maybe it's a personal challenge. I think that from all the parties involved, business-wise, football-wise, there are teams that he fits better on, that he knows already. There were complaints even from him back then, which really annoyed me, I'm going to be honest, when he used to go like, well, I'm better off the middle or off the left than on the right, trying to defend himself and his output. And it's like, well, yeah, like there's no dispute of that, but on the middle and on the left, the players that are playing are just simply better than you.
Correct.
So that's it. Like it's not harder math than that.
Yeah. Sometimes it comes down to that. Who's better, right? And those players are just better. Now, again, as Loconte said, and we want to be clear, we are not denigrating Rodrigo's skill set and talent level. They are immensely high. There's a reason why Premier League teams will pay potentially over 100 because he is that good. But again, he fits better on those teams, right, where he can be the guy on the left wing in Arsenal or Man City or wherever, it just won't work here, right? Like, because Vinny's just better, right? We're not going to move Vinny, right, to give him the left flank. That's just not going to happen.
Bayern Munich might be like an off-field option, right? They missed out on Wirtz. They have Musiala probably, who's going to continue at 10. So Rodrigo, they send Sane to Galatasaray.
Right. Yep.
So, like he gets to play with Kane, Olise, like it's a pretty
nice.
good overall team that can win the Champions League maybe with him. And he can be the main man there in terms of like the ball and his skills, just naturally fit. We don't know the state in which Alphonso Davies comes back, right? But Davies would normally on paper be like his preferred partner of the left, like that explosive, very athletic fullback. So he can be kind of more like the technical maestro, a player with a lot of agility to dribble in, get the passes. Maybe if he develops that, because he still doesn't have that in his game, but he can develop that with more consistent minutes on certain role, which he's not going to get in Madrid, because profile-wise, it's just redundancy within the team rather than him not being good. It's not him not being good. I never question his talent. That's why I say Arsenal, Man City, 100 million, like you mentioned. It's mostly about, it's a bit of a shame to also just see him, like maximize at like maybe 50% of his level, right? When you can get a much better footballer elsewhere, and you can invest that money within the team to get a better profile that's gonna complement the others better. So it's just like, that's really kind of my train of thoughts when it comes to it.
And that's the perfect way to say it.
On Wednesday, scores a hat-trick, and I go like, well, there you go. Alonso had always a plan, like you never know with this.
Yeah, that's the perfect way to say it. Like
predictions based on the paper.
You hit it perfectly, because it's about profiles that fit. And sometimes when you're Madrid and you just go after all the best young talent in the world, which as a strategy, I love. The reality of that is, because of the other existing players we have in the squad at the time, you're not always going to see each one of those players maximize their full potential with this club. It's just not possible, because there's just too many people. That's just the reality of it. But if you can get that player off, as you said, and move on, and you get that money to come in, guess what that allows us to get? What do we need? We'd love to have a 9 who can actually head the ball. Well, now we can go after somebody like Budimir and say, here's your 4 million or 5 million a year. You're going to come off the bench, obviously, in certain game states. You're not starting. He knows that. Great. We can use that money.
You're coming off the bench. We need you for box separation. We need to use these high-level crossers that we have. You're going to get quite a few goals, and ultimately you can tell your grandkids that you play for Madrid, right?
And you possibly won a Champions League.
Like there's a lot of ways to convince. Like, not every player has to be a superstar. This is my whole idea behind it. I want a team with fitting profiles, right? You made a great point, when you said about the NBA, right? Look at Pacers, for example. Like, it's not a lot of superstars there. Like, even Holly, let's draw a parallel here, wasn't really regarded as such. Like, he was literally voted as the most overrated player in the league by the players themselves.
Incorrectly, obviously.
No, I know that, but like, this is what we're talking about here. It's incorrect, but this is what we're talking. But it's a well-structured team that has, I want to say, every single possible profile on it, and everybody is doing their job.
Correct.
Like OKC on the other side, on the other hand, is like a year. It's a team that has been built throughout the years, that has picked on the holes. Of course, they're the favorites, but both teams are basically showing to you that right now, where sports are, profiles actually might matter more than the superstar, right?
Correct.
The Lakers had Luka Doncic and got bounced,
and LeBron and got correct.
It's like, oh, the guy that played the final, he was the guy that probably was most scored on that series. The guy that literally played the final a year ago and lost to what I would consider an all-timers team was being scored on. It's like, no, that's not, this player has lost the quality, but the team, the structure of that team just didn't really fit the strengths as much as it should. And it's kind of, I'm drawing those parallels to Madrid too, because I want a functional team. I don't want a team of superstars. I don't want a team that has 11 best players in the world, like on every position. Actually, you can make the case that this team does. already, right?
I know, it's
With a
crazy.
few exceptions,
Right.
but it kind of does. But how do you fill in all of those voids, like the controller? Now
Mhm.
you spoke already. Like now we have like more players to play out of the back. Dean
Mhm.
Huijsen,
Mhm.
Trent Alexander-Arnold,
Mhm.
Alonso is
Mhm.
already training the goalkeepers to play with the ball on their feet, right? Like you're getting that. You got a coach to improve upon that. Then the midfielders, right? Chouameni
Mhm.
is screening. Maybe
Mhm.
Huijsen is going to be like the player that's going to take more responsibilities. Therefore, you're going to get a lot more carries. So Chouameni is going to have to slot back in there and kind of become a center back
Mhm.
just to help the team keep that
Right.
balance out. We don't
Right.
know that has to play out. But the thing is that there is a lot of nuance in there that's kind of being lost because we kind of seem to fall in love with the name
Of
rather
course.
than
Of course.
with how it's working. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. You can love a player, you can love the team, nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you kind of want to go with, did this really work? Like
Yeah.
last season, it didn't really,
Well,
right?
clearly.
And it's not
Yeah.
always only the coach.
Mhm.
We had the first, if you remember the Arsenal post game, right? When I went
Mhm.
like, it's not all on the coach, but those players are kind of exhausted mentally and physically from having to do this much. So you need to simplify things for them. And that's really, lo and behold, what seems to be happening now.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we want to see, right?
Yeah. I mean, you,
A
you hit
control.
the nail on the head. You were right on, Loconte. The NBA parallels, and it ties back to what I started the conversation with when we started the show, which is versatility and pragmatism are going to be key for Alonso. What you're going to see in pro sports now is, yes, of course, you need elite players. Everybody knows that. You're not going to win without elite players. Duh. That's a given. But the talent is so good all over the world, and there's so many good players everywhere. Now it's just not about, oh, I have Kylian Mbappé, so I'm the best. What do you have structured around Kylian Mbappé, right?
Yes.
What are the
How are you much
profiles? How can
Yes.
you win and play in different game states, right? Like those things are important. So just like in the NBA, again, we talked about Oklahoma City and Indiana. They run 9, 10 deep, right? And they can play a
And you do
variety of
rotation,
ways,
right?
right? It's
Yeah.
huge. So I think that is a big key to all this. And that's clearly where Madrid is moving and heading towards. And we're going to see some good things. The biggest or the highlight of this show, Loconte, is Real Madrid players overrated or underrated. And in our pre-chat, look, obviously we're all Madridistas here, so we're Madrid fans. But
Yes.
I think if we're being objectively honest, there is anti-Real Madrid bias in the mainstream football media. Like I think we can
Yes.
all agree upon that for
Yes.
whatever reason. We can argue the club plays a role in that by some of the things that it does, right? Like they give them opportunity, i.e., look, I know why they didn't do it, but the whole not going to the Ballon d'Or ceremony, like that just gave them fodder to like pile on us for a whole season about it, right?
Yeah.
Like
You gave them a reason to speak, basically.
right, right. So there are
Yes.
things that we do that give them reasons to talk when we don't have to. But I also think that yes, there is bias against this club and it's mainly because they win a lot, right? Like in the football media is filled with tons of ex-players who over their careers either got beaten by Real Madrid, didn't get paid by Real Madrid, or didn't play there, and they feel a certain kind of way about Real Madrid, right? It's fine.
Yes.
It's just a reality. Like it just happens. It's what it is. But I was looking at a lot of these lists that came out, the EA Sports Team of the Season and the ESPN FC 100, and I was like, all right, I got to talk to Loconte about this because this is wild to me, like where they have these players rated and all that. So let me get the quick video game one out of the way. This one was fine to me. Mbappé, Bellingham, and Vinicius are the only three players they have from the team this year. Vinicius is a 96, Mbappé and Bellingham 97, which are the highest ratings you can get this season in that game. I'm fine with that. Like, I think you could argue on balance that they were our best players this season. I mean, I would say Valverde was also up there, but the problem with Valverde is that people who don't know how to objectively watch the game don't know how to value what it is that he does.
Yeah. And he
Again,
also wasn't fully used correctly majority
correct.
of the season. So I
But
can see where that comes.
let's just say, Loconte, you took Fede out of the squad last year and you just put an average level player in his spot, just an average level starter. How much worse is this team last year if an average player is in Valverde's spot?
I mean, the fact that we played the guy injured for months kind of tells you, right?
Right,
Like,
there it is.
that's kind of the answer. The guy needed to play injured to the point where painkillers. I mean, footballers do play a lot with painkillers. I don't know how people don't know that.
Yeah.
But this is beyond. Like when they're telling you that this guy is injured, this is beyond. He's only taking a painkiller, right? I remember a study done a few years ago where a lot of footballers kind of became addicted to painkillers because they were taking them so much.
Yep.
So this is not really the case here. Like when a club declares a player injured, that means that player has literally been rammed to the ground and just cannot play anymore. He just can't play. Yeah. And that's exactly what it means.
Yeah.
So Valverde, if you replace him, especially on that Ancelotti team, I don't really know what to say. Because he was such a glue. Like, I can just imagine a right wing of Lucas for the most part of the season, Rodrigo, and like you have like a Dani Ceballos maybe there, or a 39 years old Luka Modric, who would have to carry the physical load, and you're like...
It is possible if you replace Valverde with an average person last season, this team does not finish top 2 in the league. It's very possible. You finish 3rd, 4th,
probably. Yes.
That's how important Valverde is. Like, yes. And again, thank God Xavi's here to really get him, I think, in the position that he needs to be in, and also take off some of the load that's been put on him.
I hope we become less dependent on him. That's all I'm hoping for.
I agree. All right, let's go to the ESPN FC 100. Start with goalkeeper. We have no complaints here. Thibaut Courtois, best goalkeeper in the world. And I still do believe that, Loconte, that at his best, Thibaut is still
the best goalkeeper in the world at his best? Yes. Do I think that he was the best goalkeeper in the world for last season? No.
No. Correct. And he knows that. Now, part of it, too, we put him in a lot of shit situations, right? To be clear, right? So, and I think...
Yeah, no. There was a lot of shit that went on, right? But I don't think that... Maybe because I'm used to seeing a superhuman, right?
The Chelsea Champions League final against Liverpool, where he was an octopus.
Fully get that level last season.
Right.
So maybe, you can leave that spot for somebody else, maybe, if that. Maybe you can give it to Donnarumma, right? Because of the Champions League
was
and
so good.
And he did pull off some, like, miracle saves. So I would say, like, if you're picking the goalkeeper of this season for last year, I would go with Gigi Donnarumma.
I'm with you there, for sure. One thing to note about Courtois, he is getting his extension. I believe it's happening. If it hasn't happened already, it's happening very soon. Another 2 years. I'm okay with it, but when we're getting to the point now, though, right, Loconte, where we got to start figuring out, is Lunin our goalkeeper of the future when Courtois leaves? And if he's not,
I think he is.
Who is?
I think
you think he is? Okay, good. I do too. Yeah, I do.
Well. He's a good shot stopper, and he's better already than Thibaut when it comes to playing with the ball at his feet.
Yeah.
So you need to teach him quite a lot of things. I think that his development is a bit behind, but for as long as you have Thibaut, those things can be, worked on slowly, and he'll get there. I think that the potential is there. Normally with goalkeepers, right, it doesn't matter if they're 30 years old, for as long as the reflexes are there, the eyesight is good, it's completely fine. Right. You don't bother much because they don't have to do a lot of running like the players.
Right.
So, I think Lunin is the second guy for time being, and that's why he's not moving.
Very good. We'll get to this when we talk about the midfields and stuff, but we have a Shuti Jamal asking, you think Alonso plays Fede and Jude at pivot? Probably not, but we'll get to that when we get to our midfielders. All right, Trent wasn't on the team last year, but he's on the team now, so we'll talk about him. Is he the second best fullback in the world? Because that is where ESPN FC rated him.
They have second best to Nuno, right?
No, they had Hakimi first. They had Nuno fourth.
Oh,
yeah, I disagree. Yeah.
Okay, that's a really bad one.
Yeah.
If you're saying Nuno is the best fullback in the world, probably. He's the most completed one. Highest ceiling racer, that would be Trent. But in terms of like the most completed one and the best one, probably you would go with Nuno Mensch. But Trent, best right back in the world, yes, he's better than Hakimi. I have zero doubts over there. They have kind of like, you could say, the same issues defensively, but Trent is just so much better when it comes to playing with the ball. He can impact so many more areas of the field than Hakimi can. And ultimately, I think that 90% of the teams would rather have a Trent than Hakimi. I go by that logic. When I'm thinking of rating the best, So yeah, Trent is either one fullback or two based on how you perceive it. It's between him or Nuno Mendes.
I'm with you on that. And by the way, Nuno, look, I can make a case, but he won't get it for Nuno being the Ballon d'Or winner. You could easily make that case. He won't because he's a fullback, but you can make the case. And by the way, he had a great time in the Nations League final, pretty much owning Lamine Yamal. Like he was on both sides, in possession and out of possession. I was like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I
mean, if you saw my tweets from 2021, you would understand how much I wanted the guy. And I'm like, don't trust Mendy. Just get this guy pays release clause.
Real Madrid fans, no chance we get Nuno Mendes. Now, I mean,
no chance. Like, but I'm talking about 2021 when we were linked to him, right?
Yeah. That was hard to get
him, please.
And he's so young. Was he 23? He's super
young.
He's
23. Yes, he's really young.
You know, you mentioned something about Hakimi. Why is he such a bad defender? Because he's very athletic, Loconte. Like, I don't understand. Like, is it just positioning? Defensive awareness is not there. Like, what is it with him?
Hakimi?
Yeah.
It's a combination of he really wants to be up there, right? Up the field, he wants to attack. You see how many shots he takes per game for a fullback. Those numbers are relatively very high. And ultimately, I don't think that he cares enough, to improve the defensive side of it, because he believes that his offensive output is just going to hold up good enough to the point where he doesn't really have to bother about defending, right?
Yeah.
Because with Trent, you kind of know why he's not like a great defender,
right?
And because he just simply doesn't have that athleticism of Hakimi to deal with the wingers. But Hakimi, you made a fair point where he has the tangibles. He's just pretty bad at doing it, and I think that he just never learned how to defend.
Yeah. We have a question here from Jitesh Kundra. How can we rate Trent when he will literally gift goals in big matches? Well, look, will there be an opportunity where Trent potentially gives up a goal in the big match because of bad positioning? Yes, but that's not a Trent specific thing, and any player will probably do that. What
the guy has played 2 Champions League finals, man.
Right, there we go. And we also hope that with this new system that Xavi has in place, the system will protect him and his defensive weaknesses. Sid actually had a great tweet about this, which is when you are a horrendous offensive player, like, for instance, Ferland Mendy, right? Although there was that one Champions League match where he turned into Zidane Mendy. I'm like, when did you learn to dribble like this? Where haven't you do this all the time? It's much harder to hide people like that because when they get the ball, disaster's coming, right? But it's easier to right, because they'll get taken from them, and possession matters. But in a structure with defense, you can cover up somebody's weak defending if the team is sound enough. And I think that is what Xavi is going to try to instill, that we have defensive soundness so that we protect Trent and protect Mbappé, right? Two of the weakest links in our starting 11.
Yes, exactly. Right. So look, Trent, I don't know how his CV doesn't speak for itself.
Right.
It's like he seems to be one of these underrated guys. Like this question that we got, the guy has played 2 Champions League finals, 1-1. And it's like he's been the best right back in the world since he broke through, pretty much, because he was such a ceiling raiser to the point where you hadn't really seen a fullback have such impact since Marcelo, right? So it's like you're getting kind of like a Marcelo. Me and Sid actually had an episode where we spoke about it, and you're not really getting Marcelo because you're not getting that dribbling, you're not getting that, right? But you're getting that level, probably better.
Someone who's more offensive minded than defensive minded, right? That's what you're getting. A more offensive minded player than defensive minded player.
Yes,
but again,
exactly.
If your team structure is good, you can mask his defensive deficiencies. What you cannot mask is inability to do anything with the ball at your feet. That you can't hide that.
We have moved past the time when Jose Mourinho was a Real Madrid coach and Fabio Coentrao would play like the big games because Marcelo can defend. That's the reality. We have moved past those times a long time ago.
Correct.
It's not just about being able to do one thing and you're good at that thing, because if that was the case, then we can sign on the papers that Ferland Mendy is the best fullback in the world, right? But he's just not. because he has so many deficiencies in so many areas of the field where kind of like, oh, he's solid 1v1 is just
not enough.
Doesn't matter. It just doesn't. He's not a net positive by any sense.
Correct.
That's why I even have Fran ahead of Mendy to start. Not
Correct.
that Fran is a better player, but at least you see that there are some tangibles there that you can work with.
Yeah.
Let it be his running, athleticism, the fact that he bumps up and down, even though there's bad positioning. You see a little bit more of an upside with, okay, I can maybe teach this guy, but with like somebody like Mendy, is just like, no.
You're stuck. And I think Javi actually will be able to get some of the better play out of Garcia, and I'm looking for out of Fran. I'm looking forward to that.
I'm praying for that too.
Because I Jamal said, there is, and he's young enough. There's stuff there. Shuti Jamal said to that, and that's how we have Carvajal. Carvajal enters the game when the game state becomes chaotic. I mean, there's also that, right? Trent will have Carvajal as his deputy, right, as his backup, and you have no worries about Carvajal when he's at right back, right? So I think we'll be fine there. Moving on to center back. Okay, let me start you with this question. By the end of this season, is it possible, Loconte, that Dean Huijsen is better than Antonio Rudiger by the end of this season?
By the end of next season, Dean Huijsen makes the list, or is the best one in the list?
I'm saying right now, he's better than Antonio Rudiger today.
Better season, maybe. Better defender, I'm not sure.
So that's what I'm asking. So by the end of this season, is it possible for Dean to leapfrog Rudiger by the end of this coming season? Is it possible that he then becomes Real Madrid's best center back?
Okay. Definitely. Yes.
And
much broad talent.
I am so excited about Huijsen. He is incredible. So he was 10th, I believe, on the list this year, center backs, which maybe might be a little bit low.
It's not bad. It's not bad for a player that played for Bournemouth.
Right.
It's pretty impressive, actually. Right. Thinking of like how much PR goes into all of these lists. And from Bournemouth, well, if that was like a Man City player, that's probably ranking second or third.
Basically. And so I think to your point, just being on Real Madrid alone, he's going to get probably a 5-slot bump just based on that.
Bumps you up.
Right, just for being here. Rudiger ranked third on the list last year. And by the way, I would say the season before last, Rudiger was arguably the best center back in football 2 seasons ago.
I think he was the best. I don't think there's an arguably there. I don't think you can make a case for any defender, right?
He was so good.
We kind of learned that he's been playing through pain
much. He played injured.
Yeah, so that kind of gave us an explanation why such a major dip happened. But I don't think that Rudiger was anything spectacular last season to the point. Again, it goes back to the point of how many 1v1s they had to defend, how much they had to do. But also him being in pain is just adding more into. He didn't have the season that we expected him to have. Same goes for like Thibaut. As I said earlier, I don't think that he should have been first. Because of that, I'm saying for Rudiger, even if he's third, I don't think he deserves third. I think there's been better center backs than him that you can count on. I'm assuming Van Dijk got first?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
And it's almost like if you put Van Dijk 1 on any center back list, no one's ever going to really argue with you. They're going to be like,
he was that good.
He's been the best center back in the world for, I don't know, almost 10 years now, longer. Like he's just
since Ramos pretty much decided that.
Right.
Done.
He's that good. So I have no problem with that. What I'm hoping for, again, with Xavi's rotations are that Rudiger gets a chance to get some rest so that now, look, I know we have our glut of center backs. We have Militao and Alaba coming off injury. That's its own separate thing we've talked about a bunch of times. Hopefully they get integrated back slowly and not rushed because of those injuries. I know that Jacobo Ramon, I know that the fan base is down on him because of he didn't look great in the minute.
He looked shaky. Yes, he looked shaky.
But he's going to get more opportunities, especially in this Club World Cup, and we'll see. If he's still looking shaky,
we'll see. Yeah, for sure.
Then we're gonna know he's not ready. But I think he's gonna get some opportunity. And Asensio, of course, assuming that this legal case goes the way Madrid thinks it's gonna go, and he'll be present. I think that nice rotation of Huijsen, Rudiger, Asensio, and either Ramon, Militao, or hell, even João Martinez, because he's coming back from his ACL surgery.
Yeah, he's coming back from an ACL, but we have to see like where the level is, because Ancelotti actually trusts in a guy that's coming from juvenile rather than Castilla.
Correct.
Speaks highly, really, of him. So we'll have to see there, because we didn't really get to see him. Like that ACL happened on preseason, and we didn't really get to see how he would be integrated. So yeah.
I'm with you. All right, moving on to defensive midfielders and central midfielders. Okay, I have a question for you. And I'm going to ask the question wrong to start, and I'm going to ask it how I should have asked it. So the question I'm going to ask is Aurelien Tchouameni the best defensive midfielder in the world? Because you know what I want? It's not, that's the wrong way to say it. What I want to ask you is, can he be the best defensive midfielder in the world?
Yeah.
That's where
do
I
I
want to
think
go.
he is? Well, no.
Right.
I'm going to be honest. No.
Right.
But I think he can be, definitely. I think he can be untouchable, number one. I think all the tangibles are there. But do I think that he's maximized currently? No. No, so I wouldn't say that. Do I think that he's way more important than our fan base gives him credit for? Hell yeah. Like, the midfield looks empty without his presence.
Correct.
And yeah, he's quite underrated when it comes to the fact that how much credit he's given for what he does, like a central defensive midfielder, playing as a center back for such long periods can hamper his game a little bit, but he bounced back and he was, I want to say, top 3 performers to end the season.
Listen,
so yeah,
I will agree.
He did a pretty good job bouncing back.
The ESPN FC list had him ranked 14th, and I'm like, again, I think that was too low.
Oh, you're telling me there are 14 different.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. And again, to your point, when you play him at center back, which is not his position, of course he's going to have dips in his play because he's playing somewhere he's not supposed to play. And I would love to point out, I want to bring it up again, when the Burnabout crowd whistled him and jeered him for being so bad, since they did that and he went back to DM, he was literally the best single pivot DM in the world from that point on the rest of the season.
Yeah, from that point on, yes. Awesome. But we just kind of can't remove the other part, right?
I can remove the other part.
Oh yeah, but we're trying to have the discussion here. Yeah, give me that player. Yeah. Can we boo him again if he does it? But yeah, like that's the sort of player that we signed for. And I don't know where the notion of people that go like, oh, we don't have any player with a ball, right? Like the major reason why majority of people kind of celebrated that transition from an old Casemiro to Tchouameni was the fact that, oh, now we have a defensive midfielder who can pass the ball. Exactly. Look, maybe that's been taken away a little bit from Ancelotti's style and the fact that we are overly vertical to the point where we don't know where to pass the ball. Right. But are the tangibles there? Definitely. Can you improve upon that? Definitely. Yeah. That's all I care about for time being. Until I get a couple of months of him under Alonso, I'm going to stick with the fact that this is my guy to build with.
We saw him boss a World Cup final. Like he can do it on the biggest stage. It's just a matter of changing the system, which Javi's doing. And again, Sid said it best. Tchouameni is a supersized version of him of Xabi Alonso, right? A better athlete, right? Like, so can I teach you the little nuances that I have, and you're a better athlete than me? And oh my God, that's the hope.
Can I improve your timing? Can I improve your range? You know, like all of because Tchouameni has a problem with his range and timing. I'll say that
for sure.
But if you can improve that, then you have a player that recycles the ball, hopefully can play it long and accurately more often. Not that he can do it, I just want to see it more often. And you need to improve his timing, when he moves, how he moves. So he's a player that Alonso is gonna spend a lot of time with, I would like to believe.
It's like when you're a little kid and like the teacher's always calling you in after class to like, and like it was seen as a bad thing, but this is a good thing. We want Tchouameni to be after class all the time with Xabi Alonso, like always.
Yes, exactly.
Random guy 101 said Rice is the second best midfielder in the world on that list. 2 free kicks against Madrid can change your entire life. And look, Declan Rice is a good player. Would I make him the second best central defensive midfielder in the world? Nah, not me. I wouldn't go that high. But to his point, this is where the Madrid bias works the other way. You score 2 or 3 free kicks against Madrid, all of a sudden, well, you're the greatest player of all time. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right? Like we just somehow. I'm a big fan of Declan Rice.
Yes, he's very good.
Like I'm much higher on Rice than majority of people used to be prior to those free kicks. Those free kicks happen, and I'm reading he bossed Jude, and I'm like, where, bro? I didn't really see that. Like, what are we watching here? Or are we looking at those free kicks and going like, yeah, he did that, like, because in my eyes, when you're trying to boss a player, you do what Nuno did to Yamal, right?
That is bossing somebody
head to head, and you're like, I'm better than you,
right?
Like, I can eat you alive. I didn't see Rice do that.
Correct.
Actually, there's a clip out there of Jude just kind of dribbling past him like he's not even there. And was them both look, they're national teammates, right? Was them both playing for England? And tell me with a straight face that Declan Rice has any sort of integrity on the pitch higher than Jude.
No.
So it's as simple as that, right? Like the role that he's assigned is lesser than Jude's. It's simpler than Jude. Jude is given more complex roles to solve. So no, I wouldn't have Rice as like one of these top tier defensive midfielder wise. But to be honest, there's a lack of that too.
Yes, there is.
In general, there's a lack of that.
Honey Badger just dropped a comment. If he was that good, Arsenal wouldn't need Zubimendi to hold his hands. I mean, well, fair point. I'll leave it there. Federico Valverde was third on that list. And I'm going to ask you this question. What is Fede best at? And have we already seen his ceiling as a player?
His best attribute. Okay, so that's a player with a lot on his arsenal, right? Because normally you want to go his, like his shooting. Normally you want to go with, okay, I have a guy that can literally score from 40 meters and unlock my game, right? And it's like, you're not really getting that from other guys as consistently as you're going to get it with him. But then it's like ridiculous athleticism where it's like a player that can play 2 games back to back and not gonna look tired at all.
His engine is unreal.
Like then you have like insane passing range with him where you see like those switches and you're like, you're good at that. Yes, he does have some positional problems when you play him the way how Ancelotti played him, which I never agreed with. But he's also on the mold of, as I've said, he can do too many things, so we have just kind of overused him everywhere. Like Zidane had him defensive midfielder, then right winger, then right central midfielder, or right number 8, or right pivot, whatever you want to say. So this guy has been shuffled around way too much, and it's like, it's so hard. Do I think we have seen his ceiling? Well, not really, because I really want to see him with Alonso, right? I want to see him where he doesn't have to think as much of what the steps are going to be. He just knows, right? He just goes here, goes there, goes here, goes there, knows what to do. And here and there, he just pops you that 40 meters goal to unlock the game and just create a better environment for the attackers. So yeah, I don't think we have seen his ceiling as of yet.
I agree. Random Guy 101 says Fede attributes: engine, pressing, tackling, shooting, passing, ball carrier, great player. I mean, yes, he's just fucking great. He's just fucking great.
Yeah, in one guy.
In one guy.
Yeah, in one guy.
No surprise here. The number one central attacking midfielder for 2 years running now, Jude Bellingham. So the question I have is, but what is actually his best? I'm not going to say position, because positions are such, we get too tied up in those things. What is the best
get caught
way
too much into, do we want to call them 10?
Right, is he a 10 or whatever? Forget all that. What is the best way to deploy Jude both in possession and out of possession?
I think the way how he was used in Dortmund and the way how you're kind of seeing Tuchel using him, right? He's a guy that has a little bit more freedom to drop and help, but you will also want to kind of play at his flow, because he's so smart when he's needling that pass, because you just know that when he's cutting in, he's going to come here, right? You just know that you always can pick on it. And there are times when he lets the ball go, but he's taking the defenders, therefore has opened you a lot of space. So Jude is, I want to say, you want to have him as more like a floating midfielder would be the best way to say it, where he's a little bit everywhere, impacting every phase, and ultimately he gives you such an insane athleticism on top of everything. He's willing to chase the ball like a dog, on top of all the technical quality, which just make him ridiculous and untouchable when you're speaking about like midfielders, in general, because having that level of technical quality and then combining it with like his size,
Right.
athleticism, his running, it's like, what are we seeing here?
Yeah.
What are you?
Yeah. I think you're so right, Loconte. Look, and I don't want to give these people air, but all the people who love to be like, oh, Pedri is so much better. This player is better. That player's better. I'm like, you guys have no idea what you're watching. When I watch Jude drop deep, spin out of trouble with 3 dudes on him and progress the ball, I'm like, what are you talking about? Pedri can't do that. Like, because with his sheer size alone, you can't knock him off the ball, right? Like,
they loved calling him a number 9, right? The 2 seasons ago now at this point, they loved calling him that. But you know what's funny? Spain got better when Pedri got injured. That won them the Euros. I'll down that hill because they actually got a proper between the lines player there in Dani Olmo. And lo and behold, De La Fuente reverts back to that because Pedri came after such an insane season with Barca. He reverts back to that. Oh, and they lost to Portugal. They didn't seem dominant. Like, they didn't seem like that team that you had like, oh, they're definitely winning the World Cup next year. They didn't seem like that team. And that's because Pedri just cannot do that role. But assign Jude to any midfield role, really, simplify his game, he's going to do it. He's going to give you high volume passing if you need that. He's going to give you this needle passing. He's able to receive and move between the lines. He is such an athletic freak to the point where, look, you can enjoy your small little dribbler and passer all you want. I'm not against that. But you're comparing that to a whole different beast, to a player that's not going to come often. A Pedri is going to show up. Every generation is going to have a Pedri. There's barely ever been any Jude in history of football, right? And if you think that that's just being replicated, well, not really. It's not. You're just not going to replicate that sort of talent, that sort of level of player. So that's my stance on that pointless debate, really. Because
I'm with you. It's pointless. Jude he's generational. I mean, there's no other way of describing it. And the reason why Tuchel talks about him so much when he first got the job, and if England is going to win World Cups and do whatever it is they want to do, getting the best out of Jude is going to be key and essential for them.
I mean, we already spoke about that and the personality that Jude brings. There are other things that come with Jude too, right? It's not even the footballing ability, it's that personality, is the fact that he's such I'll never give up. I'm a winner. Maybe sometimes you could say that because of the age, he takes it a little bit too far. Maybe if you want to go on that route. But he's 21. Like, there is so much to learn. The only fear with Jude is that you just kind of pray that those minutes don't rack up.
Oh my God.
And they take away, lay down his career.
I know. That's why I'm so thankful he's going to be off for 3 months with this. I'm like, look,
exactly, right?
A forced break,
Because that's the only fear with him. Literally, that's the only fear with him. Ask him to do anything. Ask him to be a 9. Ask him to be a left winger. Ask him to be a defensive midfielder. And he's going to give you a level of production to the point where he's usable everywhere. And that's rarely something to be said for any player in world of football, really. He's genuinely a unicorn. Unicorn of a footballer. One of a kind.
He's one of one. And again, to Loconte's point, to reiterate, the minutes, Jude has already racked up more minutes at this stage of his career than Wayne Rooney had at the same stage, right? Like then David Beckham had at the same age. It's just total minutes. And so again, Xabi's depth and rotation are going to be so big for preserving Jude for the long term, so that in the biggest moments of the season for Madrid, he is at his best because he doesn't have 8,000 minutes racked up on his legs, right? That's so big for us. A player that wasn't on the list for obvious reasons, but I want to talk about quickly, as Zafri mentioned him, is Arda Güler. He says, we're seeing a lot of Arda Güler hype with Xabi now in a probable position change to midfield. How do we think that's going to do? And why I wanted to bring that up is that I think, first of all, Arda had 2 awesome games with Turkey in the international break, friendlies, and you're seeing what this kid can do with the ball at his feet, with the ability to play midfield, which we now all agree that is the best place for him, right? He just isn't, he doesn't have the athleticism to be a winger. That's just not, and he still has to get better physically, which I know, Loconte, you agree with. There's still physical things he has to get better at, but I think Xavi's going to do wonders with him as a midfielder. What say you?
I think he's getting that Lucas role, basically like a box-to-box creator, because there are legs on the guy. It's just that those legs just aren't strong enough as of yet, which can be normal, right? Like there's a lot of work to be done. It's completely fine. But I don't think those legs are strong enough. They hold enough. There is enough stamina on him. His lungs are completely fine. It's just that those legs aren't really strong enough as of yet to be holding off players like Modric used to do. I think that you're going to get that box-to-box controller type who will needle those passes in, but will also come back. We have seen that Arda is pretty good at tackling, although sometimes rash, normal for his age.
He's young.
A lot to be refined, of course, but as you said, you mentioned, Alonso will have depth, and that's the important thing. It's like those players are going to come in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. They're going to be more comfortable. They're going to know that, hey, unlike with Ancelotti, where I got this chance, if I blow this, I'm not entering the pitch anymore. It's more like, okay, look, maybe this wasn't the best of the games, but I know where I can improve on. They're not entering the pitch with that idea that, hey, I have to be 10 out of 10 or I'm not seeing the field anymore. And you saw that with Hendrik, right? They took his long shot away from his game just because he made one mistake at early stages of the season while having scored previously. And it's like, then he just didn't have the courage to take it on anymore, even though that's such a huge skill to have. But they tempered it so much to the point where he was afraid to take it. Like, I mean, that's one of the problems.
Loconte, you're speaking my language. Those of you, again, who follow my work in the NBA know I work with Coach David Thorpe, one of the premier player development coaches in the world of basketball. And David says this all the time. Playing time is like oxygen to players. They need it like you need air to fucking breathe. And every time they come into a game or a match and they feel like they're looking over their shoulder, if I make one mistake, I'm not seeing the pitch of the floor again for months. They're going to mess up because you're tense. But if you know, it's okay if you make mistakes, learn from it, move on. You're going to be much freer. And to your point, that's exactly right. And that's why I think, Loconte, I don't know if it'll happen or not. Hendrik has to play a lot of those mistakes and fear and all that out of his game. And I don't know if he's going to get enough opportunity to do that here on this team. I don't know. I don't know if he will.
He might, but I genuinely hope that we get into that direction where he becomes more like a inside forward from the right rather than a 9. I don't think that he should be a 9. I don't think that, I mean, number one, the IQ on the field and the movement, the way how he kind of works in tandem with his teammates is just not there for number 9. That's why Mbappé was like such a huge game changer. When you were getting Vini close to him, you were getting that partnership going. We even saw that in Copa del Rey final, where I know that Mbappé came off the bench, but you saw the difference, right? You immediately felt the presence that, okay, the movement is being done correctly here. Hendrik doesn't have that. So you want a role for him in which he's more allowed a positional freedom. He can come in on his stronger foot. And normally you want somebody to be covering from there. I don't know about his minutes. I think that he might get a lot because, again, you have a player that can score. Right? Like those are such key things because when you have a foot like his,
oh my God, so strong.
Always be an option. Always be an option because you can change the game. One goal matters a lot. I remember one old quote of Ancelotti saying that, hey, with Ronaldo on the team, I'm starting the games 1-0. And you know, that's really kind of the thing here, right? We can kind of say it with Mbappé to a certain extent because he's been able to, well, pardon my language, but pull so many goals out of his ass with those long shots, right? He's just right. You're kind of getting, okay, I hope I'm not taken out of context here. I'm not saying that Mbappé is as good as Ronaldo here, just for clarification, but you're kind of getting that level of production where you need those footballers to give you that fresh air. Just one goal matters a lot, especially in a league campaign, right? Champions League can be momentum based. It can swing a lot. It becomes chaotic. No team can control all the minutes of every game. So you need to be good in chaos.
Yes.
But for the league, you need that
Oh,
break
yeah.
point.
Especially against those terrorist teams that play low block and pack everybody in the box. Yeah, for sure.
Camp in the box. So you need that Valverde long shot. You need that cross to, as you suggested before, like Ante Budimir, to put it in. You're going to have games that you're going to struggle. No team is perfect. No team is going to go 38 games, 38 wins. Right? You might have like a solution for the low blocks now with Alonso, a little bit better one, but naturally you're still going to have to rely to those moments. Let it be low driven balls into the box where Jude makes the movement, or Mbappé gets the shot off, or Vinicius maybe dribbles out of nowhere and gets a player free. We don't know how that's going to play, but you're going to get that. And that's why I think a player like Endrick also becomes important. Shooters are very important. Arda has also that on his Arsenal, as we have seen, right?
Our left foot is so good.
So that's a great thing. Overall, that's a great thing, because if you can get an early goal against a low block, and that's all what they've trained for the whole week, then you're like, okay, I'm chilling here. Now you have a coach that can circulate the ball a little bit better. They're naturally gonna have to come out, right? Maybe they want to protect that 1-0 defeat and they're proud with it,
right?
But you need that goal, right? Correct. You need that break, and that's exactly what you need to be given. So that's why so many players are gonna have so many key roles. The dribblers, the passers, the shooters, all of these players are just way too important.
Between Arda, Trent, Fede, and Endrick, set pieces and long shots, I mean, just between the four of them alone, should be pretty well covered. I know we have a new set piece coach, thank goodness. So hopefully we'll actually be decent at them this year instead of what we've been in the past. Random Guy 101 says, if people didn't notice last season, Carlo didn't give a start to Arda for the first 2 months. Then he started Arda in a little game away where the entire team played pathetic and we lost. Then Carlo didn't start Arda for the next month and a half. So, and he awfully handed Arda and Endrick situations. Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what happened, right? And when players feel like I make one mistake and it's over, you're not setting up an environment for them to succeed in, right? And that's what we saw.
I kind of give up on Arda too. In all honesty, he turned it around. Kudos to him. But there was a point when I gave up on him. I'm like, I'm not even seeing that hunger anymore, in him, because he looks so lost.
Looks defeated. He looks defeated.
He just turned it around, and it's like, kudos to him, right? That's mentality. That's what you like to see. But I personally gave up on him. I'm like, with Endrick, you were seeing that effort, even though it wasn't leading to much. You were seeing the effort. With Arda, you kind of saw a sheltered player, and you're like, this is rough. Like there's so much raw talent, but I don't want to see you mentally clock off, because that's the end of you.
Yeah, but he, to Arda's credit, he fought hard and fought his way back. Again, he had those 2 great games with Turkey just recently in the last week. I'm excited to see him in the Club World Cup. All right, we're going to wrap up with the last 3 players here quickly. We talked about Rodrigo to start. He was 10th on the list. Look, Rodrigo had as an attacker. Let's see where they had him listed as. He was as a winger, number 10. He had a poor season in terms of combined output, just very poor. Like, there's no other way to say it. Like combined goals and assists, it was poor. That's just for a player of his caliber and for his presumed importance. That's just not enough.
Not even enough shots too, if that makes sense. Like he's not generating those shots where you go like, okay, the finishing was poor, but he's separating himself. He's getting those shots off. I actually have the data to back up the fact that he will give me more output on the coming seasons, right? Just not enough shots being taken from him. He's not separating himself well enough.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I would have him a 10th.
I agree. But we talked about Rodrigo and what we think is likely to happen over the course of the rest of the summer and next year. Vinny was 4th. Look,
that's a bad one. Yes. That's a bad one.
Yeah. Vinny had a subpar season for sure. I mean, let's be clear about that in terms of his output.
It's a subpar season by Vinny standards.
But I was going to make that clarification. By Vinny standards, most people would be like, oh, that's a pretty good season. For Vinny, no. Now,
for majority of the wingers, you're like, look at this output that this guy's giving you. But for Vinny, we're like,
and I will maintain this. Vinny, first of all, was unreal last season in his run to the Champions League, the most decisive player in Europe. Everybody said it. I will die on this hill. Vinny, once the Ballon d'Or news came out, that affected him. Okay, like And
it might have affected, but I also think that those minutes have just started to rack
and
up.
also
You
that
know, like those
both
minutes
things.
have
But
just started to rack up.
the point about the Ballon d'Or is that what I want fans to understand is that all of us, none of us can understand what that's like because none of us are the best in the world at anything we do. That it was such a professional disappointment for him that he felt on a personal level. Like you can't imagine what that feels like. Everyone is telling me I'm the best player in the world. I'm about to be crowned with the crowning achievement, and then I don't get the thing. And you give it to Rodri?
Yeah. You know, like it's even more insulting to the guy that gave it. They gave it to, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm losing the Ballon d'Or to Messi, even 30 to 40 years old Messi,
Right.
I would be like,
because
he's
he's a legend.
You know?
Okay, I can
Yeah,
argue that
like,
in my
okay,
head.
I get it, right? Like, but to Rodri, really? The guy hooked on the Euros. Because look, naturally, they're going to use the Euros and Copa America, right? As a
Rodri didn't even
baseline
play
for
the
that
Euro
Ballon
final.
d'Or.
He got hurt. So
The guy literally was hooked at halftime of the Euros finals while getting dominated by Jude. By the way, I've counted this. I'm going to tell you. Rodri and Jude had 3 duels in that first half. Jude won all 3 of them.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you this stat. Go and watch the game. You have 45 minutes if you don't want. You have the data that you can pull from the internet too. But just look at it. It's 3 duels that they were engaged in. All 3 were won by Jude. Case closed. Yeah. So, like my Ballon d'Or list post that final was Vini number 1, Jude number 2, and Carvajal number 3.
Exactly.
Like this was my list.
Exactly.
I'm like, okay. I mean, I could have seen if they gave it to Jude and not Vini, I would have been like, okay, fair enough. The bicycle kick to get the team, you know, and that turned out to take them to the final, assist on the final, everything. He was the best player on that final in terms of overall performance.
Yep.
I can see it. They're teammates, but I can see it. I would be like, okay, fair enough. You know, like I do believe that Vini was the better of the two throughout the season.
But you can make the argument for Jude.
Yeah, but you have a good argument to make for Jude, right? You have no argument to make for Rodri. You just don't have one. If you have one, you have one coming from the treble season where Messi won the Ballon d'Or because of the World Cup.
Right.
So now we're just kind of shifting the goalposts and the rules here.
Exactly.
So it's just like, look at this year's candidates, for example, compared to Vini, right? Vini last season. None of them even touched that season of Vini. And now we're looking at, oh, this guy deserves it more. That guy deserves it more. I know that you said, like, if we're going to shift things the way how we shifted for Rodri, right? We might as well give it to Nuno Mendes. You know, the guy performed on every single big minute that he was given. If we're shifting the posts that much, then let's give it to him. You know,
no argument for me if you're going to do it, right? And that's the thing about these awards, folks. It's just so much politics involved and PR.
Realistically, it should be removed, but I know what they want because it generates so much buzz. It's kind of like that Oscars for footballers, right? It's just like they're never going to do it because there's so much buzz, so many eyes, so many sponsors, so much money involved in it. They're not going to scrap it, but a team that's such a big collective sport, you know, like I wanted to say a sport that's such reliant on collective level to succeed, right? So what they're telling you for Ballon d'Or is you have to win the trophies with the team, be the best player on that team, have the numbers to back that up. And it's just like, okay, but let's say I scored 15 goals and had 35 assists. Maybe my teammates were finishing way above the normal average, which you saw with Liverpool and Salah, right? Guy has like 17, 18 assists from like 5 expected. So that's when the data comes. And if you're Liverpool, Arne Slot is probably sitting there and going like, yeah, Florian Wirtz would probably be good because, you know, those 17 assists, they're not really coming next season because this guy was supposed to have 5. So, you know, like that's the way how teams are going to operate.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Ballon d'Or is just...
Yeah.
Messi and Ronaldo were like this dominant force where you kind of just expected which one of them is going to win more with the team, right?
Pretty much.
So this guy achieved more with the team. You know that this guy won it, right? Frank Ribery is trying to get himself there with his 11 goals this season and won in the Champions League. And I'm like, bro, like, let's be real here. It was never really about the team trophies.
Of course not.
It's about the quality too, because we're awarding the best player. This is what we're doing, right?
Yes.
We're awarding the best player, but we're never really giving it to the best player. We're giving it to the most successful player.
Exactly. And to be fair, you know, Vinny did get the FIFA Pro Men's Player of the Year, right? So it's like, well, how are you going to get that award and not get the Ballon d'Or, right?
Yeah,
basically,
exactly,
it's the same award. Like, who's the best player?
Yeah. You know, like best team in Europe, best player in Europe, somehow FIFA's best player, but Ballon d'Or voting somehow he just doesn't get that.
And Rodrigo wasn't even top 5 in FIFA Men's Player of the Year.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I mean, he should not have been
correct.
Top 5. He should not have been. Like, you know what infuriates me? Rodri is the major reason why we were able to beat Man City to begin with, right? Go and watch those games, and you will see that Ancelotti used Rodri perfectly. He just went like, okay, I know this guy's limitations, right? He was getting Jude to beat him. Rodri was losing a lot of duels. Most of his passing was pretty pointless. Like they were giving us, oh, he had 170 passes.
Yeah, because
we wanted him to have that. Like that for me is quite offensive because we let him have the ball that much and he still didn't make an impact to the point where they lost. So personally, if I was on that level, which I'm not, but I would feel offended. I would be like 170 passes and I couldn't get my teammates into one, you know, like that chance. Like nobody remembers anything out of Rodri on the second leg where he had a lot of passes, and everybody, I think, should remember how bad Rodri was at Bernabeu. He was literally playing for us. And it's like, now this is the guy that we somehow gave the Ballon d'Or to. Somehow.
It's all politics and nonsense, folks. All right,
you
last
know,
player.
Like, what are we doing here? Like, Thuram called it, Spanish press. They're pretty good at manufacturing the guy that they want, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, they just squeeze in any player. Look at Barca this season. They started with Rafinha, somehow moved to Pedri, and it ended with Yamal because they were kind of testing the waters, seeing who sticks. And they saw that Yamal sticks the most. Okay, we're going to push this guy. We're going to push him.
Listen, he's an elite player. I have nothing bad to say about Lamine Yamal. But
of course.
This PR campaign that is coming for this kid. Folks, just look out. That's all I have to say. Look out.
Be prepared.
Yes, correct.
You're going to have to deal with a lot here.
Correct. All right, last player, number 1 for center forwards, Kylian Mbappé. Look, I mean, I think there's really no surprise here. I don't really disagree with that. I mean,
the Golden Boot winner, ultimately, right?
Right, and it's a year in which he's learning a new position effectively, right? Like, so, I mean, I think, look, you can say a lot of things about Mbappé. We talked about his inability to press well, all those various things.
You can say an underwhelming season again by Mbappé standards, but an underwhelming season where he's coming out with Pichichi, where he was like 13 goals behind, and the Golden Boot, where it looked like Salah had wrapped that up in January. It's kind of like, no, he turned it around, right? Do we expect more? Probably yes. Are we going to get more? Definitely.
Yeah.
But in terms of center forwards, Holland, who's the only real, threat.
Right. And he had a down year.
He had a down year, a lot of injuries. Man City weren't as good. They weren't creating as much. And ultimately, Holland is going to be more limited as a footballer than Mbappe. So therefore, Mbappe is just kind of going to dominate on that. It doesn't matter because there's a lot on that arsenal. There's just way too much on his arsenal where you can deny the quality there and the production that he gives you.
And I think, again, what Xabi Alonso will be able to unlock with this team, with the build-up, with those guys up front, with Vinny, Mbappe, and Jude, and Mastantuono on the right, like, I just feel like he's going to unlock we're going to see some special things over the course of the next 3 years under the Xabi Alonso tenure.
I'm really excited. Genuinely, I think they gave him that contract for no reason, right? It's pretty long considering the contracts that Madrid hands out to the
Yep.
managers. They're doing the reshuffle of everything, even on the inside. The scouting team is changing. The Castilla team, as we spoke before, is changing. Arbeloa is coming there. A lot of players are being promoted. They already bought a guy in for there. So there are a lot of changes, and it's not really something that's just happening because they had a down year, right? Like a club of Madrid's is not just going to reshuffle things because they finished second in La Liga and couldn't beat Arsenal, and now they just go like, okay, we need a whole reconstruction. They already knew that. They were already planning. They just didn't know when to do it.
Right.
And once they had this down year, they went like, okay, now it's time to pull the trigger. Okay, the coach, we already knew that Alonso was going to fit majority of the criteria. So this is the coach. The sporting team behind is going to change. The levels of fitness are probably going to change. The youth team is going to change. As you said earlier, the relationship of Arbeloa and Alonso might play a role there. We might actually start to see Castilla or young players to be used more rather than them just becoming like an income for the club, a revenue generator for the club, but rather we see some production there. The scouting team is changing a little bit, so we might get even more like youth signings, players that we're going to build maybe for the next 10 years. So it's just, it changes, right? So now the team is very young in comparison. Like when you look at the starting 11, it's very young.
Very young.
You just want to build upon this. You have a very young coach on top of it, right? You don't want to give up on Alonso on the first few months.
No.
That's just not happening. You're going to have a coach that it might be, as you said at the start of the episode, a bit of growing pains, even for the players, because it's going to be such a radical change for Alonso and also for the player. It might be a bit of growing pains, but they're going to push through it, and it seems that they are determined to do it.
Yeah.
And they will show the patience that is required. Is Real Madrid a win now club? Yes, that's for
Always.
sure.
Always.
You are forced to win. But are Real Madrid going to put like these, I won the treble now, the first season, or you're gone? No. You're not going to have that. Don't forget, they kept Carlo Ancelotti on that 2022-23 season because he won the Champions League prior. Of course, there's a lot of experience and things, but you weren't seeing like a lot of build-up there.
Right.
Here, for as long as they're going to see progress, for as long as that communication is going to be intact with Alonso, with the players, we see like a happy squad. Ultimately, we see a squad that's back in the coach. That's for the most part is going to be enough. It's a young team. They're going to want to win. They'll probably at least have La Liga in mind for next season. Of course, Champions League is always there, as we have talked before, but they definitely have La Liga as a main priority
No doubt.
for next year to keep it a little bit more grounded. Like you need to win. You need to, because the fans demand that.
Of course.
Ancelotti has given us some good explanations of how the club works, right? When he went like, I know what Madrid fans want. And it's like, well, do you? You know, like, yes, you know, it's like, I don't want to suffer every game, you know?
Like, yes, we see limited suffering.
I think you kind of missed the mark. But what he meant is that they want to win, right?
Course.
Like, ultimately, that's the end goal. They want to win.
The thing about Madrid is this is the greatest club in the history of not just world football, but sports, period. And they always have a long-term vision in mind, a medium term, and a short term. In the short term, it's always about winning. You cannot be putting up losing. That's not allowed. But what we're seeing now, and with the transition, is they are setting themselves up for the future. As you mentioned, Loconte, the squad is young. We got a bunch of early to mid 20-somethings, with the exception, obviously, of Courtois and Carvajal and some other players, but mostly early to mid 20-somethings and a bunch of teenagers and early 20s guys on the bench ready to help us into the future. This is setting up for what Madrid hopes is its next era of dominance, so that the future young kids who are not born yet, who are coming up and playing football now 1-2 years old, and be like, whoa, I want to play for that club when I get older someday because they win all the time, right? Because kids are front runners. They love teams that win, right? So that's the plan. That is where they're building towards right now. This is the next era of dominance.
I had one last question before we wrap this up. You can answer it however you want.
Okay.
How do you draw the parallels between JJ Redick and Xabi Alonso?
It's so interesting, right? So Xabi at least has head coaching experience at the professional level. JJ was coaching AAU basketball, right?
Yes.
Now, they are both maniacal, tactical, like they are obsessed with the game. Obsessed. You might even call it unhealthy obsession. They're a little too like, it's like, all right, guy, take a break. Go take a walk. Go do something else for a while. But they're also insanely competitive. Oh my God, so competitive, which you need, right? But here's what they also have in common. They're young enough that they're close enough to these players and just having played that they know how to talk to them, right?
Yes, exactly.
As you get older, you lose a little bit of that because you're not around those kinds of people anymore. But those guys are still close enough that they know I can talk to this guy. I know what these guys like, that kind of thing. And they're innovative and they are pragmatists at heart. They're like, what is going to get us to our ultimate end goal, which is to win? Yes, I have my beliefs and my principles, sure. But if it's not working, I'm going to change it because
I'm willing to change. Yes.
Right. You have a lot of coaches, as you know, Loconte. Nope. I don't want to pile on them, but Hansi Flick, he's going to play how he plays. Yes. And that's just it. Period.
That's why I don't like him.
Right. And it has success, as we saw. They won.
It will give you a success, but it comes at a lot of cost, which I don't necessarily agree with. That doesn't mean I'm right, but that's just my stance on it.
It's a philosophy, right? And I'm with you. Philosophically, I'm more on the other side where I'm like, okay, but if that doesn't work, let's try something else. Like, let's alter this. Like, that's me, but not everybody's like that. So, but I think they're both very similar in that way. And I think that fans are going to enjoy having both of them as the head coach of their favorite team.
That's why I asked you that, right? Because there are a lot of similarities, even the way how they're speaking, right? Yeah. It's just like... Mm-hmm. It's like you're seeing the basketball and football version of the same guy.
Yes.
Because, naturally, let's be honest, neither JJ or Alonso were ever considered like the best on their position, right? There was always somebody better than them.
Of course.
But just basketball geniuses on the brain here.
Yes.
Right? And now you're kind of hoping to see that brain translate into their coaching career. Which you kind of hope that they become better coaches than they were as players. Great players, by the way.
Of course.
Like great players, not taking anything away.
Right. But
yes. I think that the ceiling of theirs as coaches is higher than theirs as player. Let that be due to athleticism, talent, etc., etc. But the brain here was just different.
Yes.
Majority of the time.
100%. They are light years ahead of most people. And oftentimes the best coaches and managers are ones who are not superstars, and right, because superstars don't know how to communicate the message effectively because they just say, just fucking do it. I did it. And it's like,
Thierry Henry is that. He literally tells his players, I was able to do it. Why can't you?
Well, because you're one of the greatest people ever. You, bro. Right. I can't do that. I'm just not good enough. Right. But those guys can understand because they watch the game from a different perspective. Okay. Right. Xabi Alonso, for example. I'm not athletic like you, Aurelian. I just don't have that. But here's what I see. If you can see what I see with your athleticism on top of that, now what can you do, right? And they can communicate it, right? It's all about communication. Look, you can have the best message in the world, but if you cannot communicate it effectively to each of your players, and by the way, each player has to receives it differently. If you can't do that, you're going to fail. I don't care how good you are. You're going to fail. And so our hope is that Xabi is excellent, and I think he is. Last thing at the buzzer here, will Real Madrid sign a midfielder and an attacker this summer? I don't know.
We don't know.
It's the easiest answers. We don't know. I think we're going to wait. We're going to wait to see how the Club World Cup goes, and based on what comes back out of that. It
doesn't look like one of these summers where it closes very early for Madrid. Right. They have left a lot of doors open this time around. It looks a bit different. So I think that this Club World Cup is squad assessment more than anything else. See where young players are. Maybe Gonzalo Garcia comes in, scores a couple of goals, and you're like, okay, last season he did show me some promise. This season he's usable. So maybe I don't sign that striker to spend money on because I have this young guy. But if this young guy doesn't pan out, well, I'm probably going to have to go out there and sign him. Then we have the Rodrigo conundrum, which we don't know how it's going to be solved.
Exactly.
So I think when we speak about transfers, we kind of need to wait to first and make the assessment, see what the club assessment of every single player is going to be like. Because we saw on the training session, right?
Yeah.
Even injured players participated
in
along the first ever training session.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he does it. He's not trying to abuse them. He just wants to tell them, hey, look, those are going to be the principles. I want you guys to know, just so when you're fit, you already know what you have to do, and you got a taste of it on the first day. You got a feel of it. So that's what's going to happen, slowly but surely.
You hit the nail on the head,
Everybody's going to be integrated in.
As much as Madrid wants to win the Club World Cup, which they do, I want to be very clear about that.
Yeah, clearly.
This tournament is going to be as much about winning as it is about squad review to see who is doing well at what we have, to your point. So we know, hey, young kids, I can count on you, or I can't in this position. Then yes, we will sign a striker, or no, we don't have to sign one because this kid's good, or no, we don't need to sign an additional midfielder because Kema's good, or whoever. It's going to be evaluation. They are evaluating across the board.
It's kind of like a preseason, right? It's like a preseason before a preseason, but I actually have to win this. Unlike the preseason, I actually have to win this. So, hey, guys, look, I know that you take the preseason lightly. Here, I want you 100% of the time, but here we have a little bit of leverage to test some things out before we get to the actual thing next year. Like, look at the amount of games that are being played. You spoke heavily on the rotation, how deep the squad needs to be. Look at how many games are being played. So, no, don't close the door to any signing. Let it be Carreras, let it be Budimir, or another 9, or a winger. Don't close the door to anything happening, because the club this year is operating differently to at the bare minimum since COVID to now, which we take as an era. It's definitely operating differently. It's not that type of situation where, okay, they got the signings done early on because they just want to get to the preseason full strength and not bother with it anymore. Unless like some big offer or big opportunity shows up on the market, which never does, because you're competing with Premier League clubs that are going to outbid you. Therefore, most of the time, Madrid finishes their business quite early, unless they have players set in mind, like we're seeing now. You know, they wanted Trent. They paid 10 million for him to have him for the Club World Cup because they want him there. They could have done that for Carreras, don't get me wrong, but they want to assess the squad first.
Exactly.
You know,
it's all about assessment, guys. We got to win, but we have to assess what we have. And so we'll see how it all plays out later. Guys, this was a fantastic stream. We went an hour and 43 minutes. Listen, you guys, you got to love this, man. Loconte, this was fun. Our first live stream together. Loved it. Can't wait to do more.
It, man. It was a real joy. I hope that the people enjoyed it a lot. And guys, as Jarod said, everything on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everything is for free. We're doing all of this for free for you guys. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube if you're listening audio only. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube so you don't miss those shows. A lot is coming. Up next, you're going to have a lot more coverages of the Club World Cup, player assessments. We're going to do them too. It's what we see. I'm not saying that you're going to get the official one, but you're going to get a review of the important things that we're seeing. Like let it be Poison, let it be older players, like how Tchouaméni is being used, maybe. So, guys, make sure that you stick around really and appreciate all of you.
Yes, guys, thank you so much for. Thank you.
Pleasure to have this, bro. So, yeah,
appreciate you, Loconte. Thank you so much, guys, in the chat. All you who watch on the live stream, we got up to like 75 during the live stream today, so it's pretty good. Hey, make sure you like this video. Please hit like and also subscribe. Again, Apple, Spotify. It's free. What do you get in life that you enjoy for free? Not much. Not a whole lot. So this is awesome, guys. It was a pleasure, and we'll see you guys next week. All right, Hala Madrid. Good stuff, man. That was good stuff.
Ooh, I didn't even clock how long we were until I checked the clock.
We were
there,
clocking.
and
I
I'm
was like,
like,
it
"Are
was
we
going
actually
so
live?"
well. So I was like, fuck it. Let's just keep rolling with it.
Yeah. No, it was really fun. We had good bouncing. I genuinely believe that it was like a very good chemistry considering it's our first time together, right?
Yeah.
It's just me and you for the first time. I thought we had good chemistry. I
Yeah.
thought we bounced nicely because that's very important when we're doing the transitions. You know,
Yep.
like some of these alone episodes are a bit hard because you're trying in your head to set up the